All right, welcome everyone. Tonight is a little bit unusual for us. We have more people attending virtually than in the room. Not sure why. You think? Yeah? I was guessing. Yes. I was guessing tax season. Maybe it's the tax deadline. People want to stay home. But welcome everyone here. Welcome everyone joining online. I think this is going to be fun. This is the first year we're doing this differently. So we've got 7 vendors. I'm very grateful to the vendors lined up to give presentations on what they showed at NAB, to highlight some of the things they showed at the show. As most of you are aware, not many Canadians traveled to NAB this year. So hopefully for those that couldn't make it, which is most of us, hopefully this is helpful. So we look forward to it. I'm going to go quickly through some updates because we want to get to the presentations right away. So thank you to our gold sponsors, Lavo and SMPTE Toronto Bootcamp. Also, all our presenters tonight, all of the vendor companies are sponsors as well. So big thank you to them and for their time. I may poll the vendors also and ask if next year we should do it 2 weeks after NAB rather than getting you to come out the week after NAB. But thank you so much. And I want to highlight our boot camp. So our SMPTE Toronto boot camp that we do once every 2 years, our one-day conference, it's happening on May 21st. And this year we're focused on sports. Everything about sports. And even if you don't work in sports, sports utilizes fascinating technology. And we have an incredible lineup of presenters and sessions at this event. So we have Dome Productions, we have Ross Video, Fujifilm, Giraffic, Diversified, Scotiabank Arena, Rogers Centre, CBC, AWS, Evertz, and Lavo. So it's going to be lively, it's going to be jam-packed, and I hope all of you can make it. And please note, there is an early bird registration deadline, so you save money by registering before May 6th. So please, please, please hope to see you all there. All right, and tonight, again, thank you to the vendors presenting. This is our lineup of presenters. As you can see, the vendor industry powerhouses, I'll say, but really great companies in our industry, and a really interesting cross-section of companies that specialize in different areas. So we have SDVI, Meinberg, Interfax, and Providius, Lavo, Grass Valley, Fujifilm, and Evertz. And each presentation will be 10 minutes, and then we'll do a quick Q&A immediately after each presentation. And for those joining virtually, we'll be monitoring the Q&A as well. And afterwards, for all those interested, there will be a networking social meetup at Trois Brasseurs, 275 Yonge Street. So hope to see you all there. That is everything. As I said, I wanted to get to the presentations quickly, so I will call up Simon Adler from SDVI, and we'll load your presentation.
All right, I'll give you a quick overview of what SDVI is, and then I'll intersperse some new stuff that we showed what feels like only a few days ago in the desert itself. So, obligatory customer slide. We have lots of big customers. They are big, they are small, they are random, but they all predominantly do the same thing, which is try to get media to eyeballs. So we started 13 years ago, and across all of our installations of what we call the product Rally, last year we did almost 1 billion jobs on Rally, processed 57 million hours of content, and did almost 500 million automated decisions, basically across what we call the media supply chain. So what that is, because I always talk about it, is to you is probably, it's a workflow. So we are basically an orchestration engine running in the cloud, architected day one to run in the cloud. In 2013, our initial customers were Fox and Discovery and Turner and others. And really, you can build anything. It's a blessing and a curse, but you can build absolutely anything in Rally you wish. And obviously, the goals and why we built this platform were these main 4 pillars. The first one is agility. Our industry, as you all are on the horrible side of probably, is changing so quickly, and the business that we used to be in to just put pictures over the air is a very different story today. And so we actually have a release every 2 weeks. So all of our customers have at least one staging environment and one production environment running in the cloud, and we do a release every 2 weeks. We're microservice driven, and so it means we can push to their lowers or the staging environments or dev environments every 2 weeks. And actually, unlike, I would say, historically large software systems, most of our customers will do a production push every 2 to 4 weeks. The main goal of this platform was efficiency, not only technical efficiency. Let's try and automate as much as we can so that humans can do the things they're good at. But it's also a few other things. One is infrastructure. So rather than buy lots of racks of servers and lots of fixed licenses for product A, you can basically, we have a marketplace of about 80 different products, and we will manage all the infrastructure for you. So it will scale up when you're busy and you suddenly have a new channel launching and you need an extra 50 transcoders or 30 QC engines or audio processing tools. We'll basically scale the whole of our platform and all of those tools individually to meet your needs. The other one on efficiency is through using, I'm going to try not to use the words AI too much in this presentation. Using AI and ML, QC and other things, we can gather intelligent data throughout the processing of a supply chain, and then the idea is to make your human operators more efficient. So if we can take that data and present it to them on a timeline by exception, then hopefully what used to take them an hour or 2 of human touch time might be down to 12 to 18 minutes. And that's the holy grail. And the last one is try to make it easy for people to exchange content. We have an extra option now around delivering content to Hulu and Amazon and Netflix by basically having predefined recipes, but also customers are always swapping content. You know, Chorus are always bringing in content from NBCU. Others are bringing stuff in from WBD. If we can make that exchange easy, then that was the goal of that part of the platform. I realized I have no idea on timing, so this is going to be entertaining. Okay, I'll talk about the product a bit. So at its core, Rally, as we call it, is basically manages assets, and that's any type of media you can possibly imagine, and the metadata. So that's technical metadata about the content, descriptive metadata, and a thing I'll talk about a lot, which is time-based metadata. That's that segment timing, the QC data, the AI and ML data about nudity and bad language and violence. All of that is collated into this platform. And then the core is the engineering piece, right? It's where you build workflows and supply chains. It manages all the resources, and it manages all of those third-party tools, of which there's an eye chart for you. We have a lot. So basically, pretty much all of these, whether they are connections and integrations or whether they are the tools for QC, transform, audio caption generation, AI and ML analysis, all of those tools we are able to scale up and down on demand. So again, when you're busy, we have lots. When you don't need any, we shut them all down. It also means the business can chop and change. As your business changes and you suddenly need to do something else, you don't have fixed licenses you've already bought. You're able to change as your business changes and say, hey, if we change to that tool, it has the new features we need. Or that one is 4 cents per minute of content cheaper. We can save ourselves $4,000 a month by switching to that tool. So you get that flexibility and you're not locked in on a particular vendor. And then for NAB, we launched 4 new ones, so mainly AI stuff, but Audio Shake, if you haven't looked at it, pretty cool. If you've got a program that you have in the archive, you can bring it out and split it into stems if you don't own the rights for that music anymore. And then you can replace the music and put it back together. It's really quite nice. Vion Labs is auto ad break markers and detection. We'll recommend places to take commercial breaks. Snicket Labs compares video to make sure you've got frames and where they came from different pieces of content. And we use Highscale for ingesting streams straight to the cloud. So a number of new vendors launched at NAB. Okay, so that's engineering land. Then we have something called Gateway. We don't want to expose the complexity of the factory floor, effectively, to the operations team. We want to give them an easier way to view what's going on. So this is basically build your own UI. We give you web portals, and you drag and drop widgets onto the screen to say, this is an Hour UI that's contextual to my ops team. This is contextual to my subtitling team. That way you don't have to train someone on a massive UI with all the options. They can just be targeted. Even external portals for customers to deliver content. It's a common thing where someone just wants a small window into the factory, just wants to completely hide the technology and the complicated stuff. Okay, access. So access is basically how you view the time-based metadata. So we've got all this stuff we've collected, nudity, bad language, QC events, etc. I want to, if it's a failure, I want to bubble that up to an operator as a human task. And I can do that in a number of ways. I can do it on a web browser with a timeline, show them exactly we found problems here, 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 and here, and nudity here. I can do it in Adobe. We have a deep integration with Adobe. You can install the panel directly from the store, and all the human tasks appear in Adobe. Someone can click on the job, load all the data into the timeline, and again, what used to take discovery. An hour of human touch time used to take an hour of program used to take 1 to 2 hours of human touch time, and now they're down to 12 to 18 minutes. And that's obviously how they manage to either do more with less people, or vice versa, get more content through the platform with the same people. New stuff for NAB, we added a brand new player to Rally, which is very similar and is completely free and allows you to have all your time-based metadata. This one's found violence, obviously, on the same timeline in a web browser. It's fully timecode accurate. It supports as many languages as you can eat. If you have subs for that, you can have those. Same, it is a componentized player, so it basically means whatever components you've got, it will play them. It can also do full audio routing, to allow you to solo, mono those tracks. And it now has collaborative comments, so I can say, hey, Simon, why didn't you fix this? And someone can write back and say, because you're a moron, etc. But it deep links to those tasks. So it sends messages, people can then click on it, open up the task, and collaborate on those workflows. How am I doing on time? No idea. New module again. Oh, I'm good then. Good. I'll slow down. Subtitling, brand new module we just added. So again, for multi-languages, this will allow you to have as many subs and dubs as you wish, and it will scroll as you play. It will match the subs to it. It's not an authoring tool, but it's designed for those things that need quick triage. Someone's spelt it Jamie instead of James. You want to retime it and move everything around. Also integrated with bait and captions, so therefore it can show you whether you've got too many packets or too many characters in a payload. But that way, again, if it automates and it goes through, let it go. If it doesn't, let's show the operator where there's things that can be quickly triaged. Cool, deliveries. So, added quite a bit here. So this is really the concept of many of those large customers wanted to insource. They didn't want to, whatever that is. It's good. They would like to insource that delivery to Netflix and Amazon Prime and Hulu and Rogers and everybody else. But the overarching amount of work to say I've got this internal metadata and video and audio and everything else, and I've got to do a custom mapping to Amazon and now a different one to Hulu, another one to Netflix, is a huge amount of work. So what we've done is created a platform called Connect. Now you do one mapping to Rally Connect, like a magic front door, and then we basically have defined presets and recipes that will then deliver that to Hulu and everybody else. So many of our customers who used to outsource a lot of that and pay a lot of dollars are now bringing at least the initial sort of 20 or 30 big ones in-house, meaning they can save a lot of cash and get more visibility into their deliveries and cut out the middleman. All right, new stuff. So Rally's been around since 2013, but what we realized was it still needed engineers to build supply chains and workflows. Again, blessing and a curse, it can do absolutely anything. So what we've done is also for those huge number of vendors, it's not like you're connecting your product to your product. There are so many combinations there. And so we've just added a graphical builder that solves that problem at some point. And that graphical builder comes with the goal of being also able to use agentic AI, which I'll come on to in a moment, to automatically build supply chains. We have got quite far with it. It needs some tweaking, but we're getting there. And what this does is we've got the concept of supply chain functions. So that basically means if you have a main workflow, it used to be engineers building that, but now you can have the senior supervisors or the senior ops team build those workflows, because we have clearly defined supply chain functions that are a metadata transformation engine, a transcoder, a QC, a router control, whatever it might be. They are predefined, and the engineers can build, at the bottom, they can build their own little supply chain functions and then present them to their own ops team, who can then utilize them. So you need less engineering resources to build these supply chains. Going with that, we created something here called Rewind. So for two reasons. One is fault finding, and if you look at the diagram on the right here, as in theory it goes back in time, this is already run, but as it goes back in time, you can actually see that the icons change color because they haven't run yet. And on the left, you see the parameters that were generated during that supply chain run. And so for fault finding, it's very handy to be able to look at that and say, well, why did it take path A versus path B? Oh, look, because the order that was sent in said deliver to Comcast, deliver to Chorus, deliver to this. That's the reason it went that way. The other reason is for the ops team. Historically, people may run the entire supply chain from start to finish, okay, which costs them money to process all that content. Now they can rewind that supply chain to a certain point, fix the parameter if it was a one-off or maybe 3 failed out of 100, and then send it on its way, and it will carry on from that point. So you don't lose the legacy data from previous times. Last one, here it comes, agentic AI. So we have now added an MCP server to Rally, which basically means you can talk to it vaguely like a human being. This is the goal of most of our large customers. They want an agentic way of working and be able to talk to not only Rally, but it will talk to their rights and management system and other systems, so they can say, where is my content? This is saying, what files do I have in that particular asset that was ingested? And then, whatever we put in there next, show me the QC results that came out of Baton, and it will summarize that for you. But you can imagine if I said, build me a supply chain that does A, B, and C. It will do that. It can also say, deliver my content, deliver these episodes of Friends to Chorus, and it will build that supply chain, and it will tell you, by the way, Rally, you've got all the assets, but you don't have an avails window to do that in your whatever business system up front. So you understand that these MCP servers are coming hot and fast, and this will be the way that most of our media customers will want to work in the future. Those are the highlights from NAB. Obviously happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much. And any questions? We're keeping track of the number of times the letters AI are used.
I tried to limit it, I really did.
Would you, just one from me, is it a general trend at NAV, more discussion and more AI solutions than last year, or less?
Lots more tools, for sure. So yes, but the important thing is guardrails, making sure you have guardrails on your AI. So if you build an MCP server and put it on top of your product, make sure that it has the least access it can. Otherwise, someone might say, let's delete all the assets, and away they go. So you have to make sure you take security into account with AI, and that has been one of the key things. So, but yes, generally, there are so many AI vendors out there. How many are around in a year's time? We will wait and see.
All right, and next up, Neil Harlan from Interfax, who are the Canadian distributors of Mindberg.
All right, well, thank you very much. As I said, my name is Neil Harlan. The company I'm with is Interfax Systems, and we are the Canadian distributor for Mindberg. So this year, we were in the Central Hall at NAB, and this was about 9:30 on Sunday morning, getting ready for everybody to show up. You know, people diligently working there for last little tweaks inside our booth. So I'll go over a few different things, including an overview of who Mindberg is for any of you who are not familiar with us. And then again, we'll talk a little bit more specifically about the show. Unlike the first presentation, we are not a software company, we are a hardware company. So we'll go over those details for you. Okay. All right, so who is Meinberg? So we are a provider of synchronization systems for the broadcast world. Not just the broadcast world, actually. We play in quite a number of different markets. But in this particular world, we are providing time synchronization in both the analog and digital world, so your SDI and your IP world for broadcast applications. So our products, as I said, primarily hardware, so these would include Grandmasters, as well as some PTP software for troubleshooting purposes. That software is called TrackHound, and we'll talk a little bit more towards the end about that. For the broadcast world, we primarily focus on two families of our products. The one on the left-hand side called the MicroSync family. The one in the center there is our IMS, or modular system, and then on the right-hand side we have some screen captures of our TrackHound software. So Meinberg was founded in 1979. They are a German-based company in Bad Pyrmont in northern Germany. In 2019, they acquired an Austrian company called Oregano Systems, who are specialists and experts in PTP kernels, hardware for PTP, so it was a perfect marriage for these two companies. In 2020, they opened a Meinberg USA office, which is responsible for the US market, but also houses a support center. Then a couple of years ago, 2024, Meinberg Asia opened. Similar idea that there's now another support center. And so for customers anywhere around the world, there's now 3 support centers: Germany, US, and Thailand. So when you submit a technical question via our ticket system, it's going to get picked up by one of those 3 centers, depending on who's awake when you ask the question. And of course, for sales and support, they have worldwide distribution. And as I said, here in Canada, it's ourselves, Interfax Systems. So I will let one of our managing directors, Daniel Bolt, this was the welcome video for NAB.
Welcome to Las Vegas, welcome to NAB 2026 here at the Meinberg booth in the Central Hall at booth number C2908. What we have here on show is the Meinberg studio test environment, the famous Misty, like we have seen also last year. And what we also have is a nice rack showing PTP TrackHound in action, including our new supervision feature that is making use of third-party APIs from other switch vendors. And what we also have, and that is very nice this year, is a technology demonstration showing a wireless synchronization demo with technology from the company YYSTAM, and Meinberg showing wireless distribution of timing to regenerate blackburst over that wirelessly. So it's very exciting. So we're happy to welcome you here in our booth.
All right, so we talked a little bit more specifically about some of the hardware that we had on display. As I said, one of the families we focus on in this market is called the MicroSync. As you can see, it comes in 3 different flavors, the XS, HR, and the RX. We'll look at the HR and RX first. So these boxes are designed to bridge that analog and digital world. A lot of customers have invested money in SDI hardware. It works perfectly fine. You don't want to throw it away, yet you still now want to move into the IP world. So the MicroSync products can give you both sets of timing information out of a single clock. So in your analog world, you've got your Blackburst, tri-level DARS word clock. And then on the IP side, we've obviously got your PTP for ST2110. We support PTP versions 1 and 2. And we also include all of the necessary profiles. So there's a number of profiles across different industries. Broadcast has their collection. Some people will choose to use the default. But every box comes available with all the different profiles for users to use. The primary input for these is generally a GNSS signal. So that's one of 4 worldwide satellite systems, GPS, Galileo, GLONASS, or Beidou. The users can pick which ones they want to use or not want to use. But if those signals go away for some reason, there's always external inputs that you can accept. A black-in word clock or even a simple 1 pulse per second can be used as an external reference. In setups where you have multiple clocks, you can actually have these clocks look at each other to determine which ones are the best grandmaster, and they can then sync each other over PTP and or NTP if needed. I've mentioned a couple of times our TrackHound diagnostic software. Again, we'll talk about that in a second, but this software can actually run directly on these units as opposed to having to have a standalone computer to run it. In addition to that, our boxes also have the ability to be LTC readers and also offer LTC output. The XS, which is a 1/3 rack unit, a little more compact, first targeted for mobile applications where space is always at a premium. But this 1/3 rack unit, you can put 3 of them together in a single 1U space. This one is focused primarily on the 2110 world. It does have a few analog outputs, like a pulse per second and 10 megahertz. But again, its primary purpose is to offer 2 ports for PTP timing. Like its larger units, it would also be synchronized most commonly by GNSS. And again, we can look at units over PTP and NTP for backups. The IMS family is a modular system. We have examples of 2 of the chassis here. The one on the left is a 1U chassis. The one on the right is a 3U chassis. Fundamentally, these systems have similar capabilities to that of the microsync, but they offer you future expandability. Some people know where they are today. They might not know where they want to go tomorrow. So with this system, you can populate a chassis. If you outgrow it, you can pull all the cards out, buy a larger chassis, put all those cards back into the larger chassis. Or you can have spare cards that you swap out and configure on an as-needed basis. I've shown a few different examples. There's many more than this, but you've got your basic input receiver cards. And then at NAB this year, we announced our new 2-channel or dual PTP card in a single slot. We also have, for the analog world, a studio clock generator, as well as a couple of versions of video sync generators. Okay, so TrackHound. TrackHound is a software for PTP debugging and monitoring. We often have a lot of people come to our booth and say, oh, TrackHound, I know TrackHound. Who's Meinberg? And we're like, well, we're the creator of TrackHound, because there is a free version of TrackHound out there that you don't have to be a Meinberg owner. We are terribly disappointed that you are not a Meinberg owner, but technically you can use this software with any PTP device for diagnosing your PTP traffic. So when your time clients are not getting their PTP packets, you can visualize this and see all the traffic announcements and such. In our latest version, version 2.2, we have released a function called supervision. So if you're familiar with a PTP setup, you've got your grandmaster, and then out there you've got some switches. Well, those switches are often, they are known as boundary clocks or transparent clocks. Transparent clock, as the name suggests, you can kind of see through those. A boundary clock, however, stops that information and regenerates information on the other side. So when you are looking down from the top from your grandmaster, you can't see beyond a boundary clock. However, we've now integrated some APIs from Luminex, Cisco, Arista, and Netgear that allow us to query those switches, and in effect, we can look through those boundary clocks. Your other alternative is to deploy track count at different places around your network and look from 2 different directions. But if you're using one of these 4 switch manufacturers, we can now query that switch directly. Our goal is to add more vendors and more models of these switches into track count. Okay.
Hello everyone, my name is Uriah. I'm here at the Meinberg booth at NAB, number 2908 in the Central Hall. And here we're showing off our wireless synchronization partnership with YYStamp. So we've got up top here a YY leader, which then wirelessly synchronizes 2 followers that are feeding 1 PPS into a microsync, which then converts that into Blackburst and allows us to feed synchronization to our 2 cameras and our switcher, which is the first instance, at least as far as we're aware, of wireless Blackburst synchronization. If you have any more questions, feel free to come visit us on our booth. We hope to see you there.
All right. So, yeah, that's actually it. So if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. If you'd like to get some more information, this year we were giving away poker chips at the booth. One leads you to our broadcast Meinberg site, and the other one leads you to our track count software. Thank you.
All right. And any questions? Luke?
Uh-oh.
Luke's got a reputation.
Uh-oh.
Track count. How many NICs can it look at once for like efficiency reasons or licensing reasons? If I was to have a server with like populated with a bunch of NICs and to deploy it to all my switches.
I'm not sure what the number is, but you can do like multiple grandmasters, multiple switches. Oftentimes you will have in one setup you'll often have like your red network and blue network. So you can look at all of those and all the devices hanging off of that. I'm not sure what the maximum number is, but we've seen some pretty large networks, especially we do a lot in the finance world. They have a lot of ports in their networks.
So if I was to be really efficient with one license, I could put interrogate a whole bunch of switches.
You can. So in the free one, you can't do multiple networks. There are other versions of TrackHound that you can pay for that give you advanced features like the supervision. And then multi-site monitoring is one of the features that you pay for. But theoretically, you know, I guess I am saying this out loud. You could, I suppose, install multiple free copies of TrackHound in different places.
And am I allowed to ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
What's your integration with Zabbix, Data Miner, and Nagios?
Yes, so we did have a display for our collaboration with Skyliner and their data miner product. So we offer a product called MBG NMS, which is a network management software whereby when you get it from us, you get all the necessary drivers to manage your Meinberg devices on a network. If you have other devices, then we would direct you to Skyliner to get drivers and such for servers, switches, etc. Yeah.
All right, and we better move to the next one. But thank you, Nick.
All right,
Excellent
great.
stuff.
Thank you.
And I do have one question for Simon, because I missed the question in the online Q&A. But the question was, how has your product evolved as adoption of 2110 has grown? And then I did ask to clarify, and Norm clarified, I'm particularly interested in network analytics and QoS.
That hasn't really hit us at all. We generally receive streams and record them to the cloud and pick them up as files from that point on. So not a huge change in the way that we operate there today.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Matthew Slack, I'm with Providius. Maybe before I start, quick show of hands. Does anyone know who Providius is here? A few people? Not too many. About half the audience. So Providius is probably one of the least known broadcast media companies, I would say, in Canada, yet we're 100% based actually out of Hamilton. So all of our development, our sales, our engineering is actually headquartered there. We've actually been in business for just over 12 years. So we actually started with handheld tablet media analyzers that you'd plug into the network and be able to observe different media feeds. But since then, we've grown into the Providius platform. And I love the last question around network analytics. I'll definitely cover that today. But really, we are purpose-built to really solve the unique challenges of observing IP-based media on the network. So we specialize in the domain, specifically looking at SMPTE 2110, IPMX, NVX from an enterprise AV standpoint, Dante, AV over IP, PTP v1, v2 timing, and also network fabric performance. So really kind of the observability blind spot, one thing we're not a device dashboard. So we're not going to give you a pane of glass that's going to show you kind of green light, red light, up, down status. We're not going to manage the firmware of your device in our platform. We really are focused on, the Providius difference here, as you can see, the device online, but the multicast flow is being dropped at switch 3 due to an IGMP mismatch, and the PTP offset is causing an audio sync drift. We're going to help you to find these issues on the network in real time and be able to solve them. So really what we do at a high level is we provide very deep network visibility to the broadcast, the media, the AV teams. So you're not always having to call the network engineers, network team to try to get access to network-based tools that may or may not give you the insights that you need. And at Providius, we do partner with a lot of companies. When it comes to things like network visibility, we partner with all of the major switch manufacturers, Arista, Cisco, Netgear, Extreme, et cetera. But we also have a lot of other integrations and partnerships with companies like NVIDIA and Audinate and Crestron and others. So really the platform is quite well-rounded. And the platform itself consists of 3 applications. So the first is NVRT. This is our network visibility in real-time telemetry platform. This is the software that actually connects into those Arista switches, the Cisco switches, et cetera, to give us real-time telemetry. So we're not using API for this. We're using things like GNMI and S-Flow and other techniques to be able to heat map the network in real time so I can see my utilization on every single link. I can do PTP analysis so I can see leader follower across the network. I can see all of my devices, and we have very, very large customers using this product. I'm talking in the tens of thousands of devices, the thousands of flows on the network, and hundreds upon hundreds of switches. We have the ability to actually observe all that. Plus, we can start to map on top of this things like, PoE as an example. So if you want to see a PoE heat map, maybe you've got a lot of Dante devices within the facility, we can start to show that as well. And then what's nice is you probably can't see it on the screen here, but the very top of all of our applications, we actually support, it's almost like a flight data recorder for your media broadcast fabrics. Very often you might not realize or know an issue is happening in real time, and maybe you only become aware of it maybe days later, a week later. You can actually go back in time and see what were the network events that were happening 2 days ago, a week ago. Maybe there was a clock election issue as an example on an endpoint. We can actually show all of that in the platform as well. The second product is BMG. This is our Broadcast Media Guard application. And what this provides is it's not your traditional multi-viewer. It's really for media analysis. So compliance, TR 101, 290 as an example. But here, we can actually set up various different alerts. So, if there's issues with loudness or, there's nothing being transmitted, things like that, we can actually create alerts in all the different media. And within the BMG product, we actually support a wide range of different codecs. 2110, IPMX, NVX, Dante, NDI, V1, V2, PTP, HLS dash, MPEG-2TS, JPEG XS. The list goes on and on. Think of it as almost like a Swiss Army knife for media observability. And then the third product is a relatively new product for us. This is called Cryo. So this is for real-time traffic analysis. Has anyone used Wireshark here before? A few people familiar with it? This is a centralized appliance that actually allows you, instead of spanning that traffic to your laptop and Wiresharking that traffic and doing analysis, we can do all of the analysis centrally using this appliance. We also introduced at the show SRT fleet management. So you can actually observe in real time up to 128 SRT flows using the software, which is pretty interesting functionality. But when this comes back on the screen, what you see on the left here, IP jack field. So this is something we actually co-developed with Arista. This provides you the ability within NVRT to actually click on any of those links, any of those physical connections in your network, click on it and actually span that traffic, span, rspan, ERSpan that traffic in real time to our media analyzer or to our Cryo. So if you want to actually see, with BMG, you could obviously be a receiver and any kind of the signal chain. But if you want to actually observe what is crossing the wire, we have the ability to actually do that with span, rspan, ERSpan in real time with 2 clicks, send that traffic into the Cryo, then I can actually do detailed flow analysis in real time as well. So really provides very interesting tools to help you with troubleshooting and really understanding what's going on in the network. This is an example, actually, it doesn't show up that great on the projector, but these are a couple examples of NVRT itself visualizing various different networks. And what's nice about NVRT is it's not specific to one manufacturer. So we have customers that have obviously kind of blue, red, Arista networks. They've got Cisco for out-of-band management. They might have Netgear for kind of the pro AV side of things. But it's a single tool that can actually observe all those various networks in real time. And we can see all the links, all the devices. And for our customers that need really hyperscale, we have what we call supers. So we have super NVRT, super BMG, and a super stands for the supervisory layer. So if you want to be able to observe, multiple different facilities, multiple different fabrics, in the scale of tens of thousands of devices, we have the capability for that as well. This is an example. So this is NVRT. And what we have here is we call Pervidian Peak. So this is actually, kind of a magnifying glass for your network. I can actually scan the network and I can see what you see on the screen here, leader follower status. I can see heat maps, but I can see all of the devices that are connected to every port. And when you look for telemetry, I can actually click into this and actually see in real time the telemetry from all these various different interfaces on the network as well. And this is an example of the jack field technology. So literally just clicking on any of these links, I can bring up an overview. I can see the various different events, but I can also span that traffic in real time as well. So no longer do you need to call the network team to set up a span. You can do all of that in the UI. This is just an example of route path observability. So a lot of our customers really appreciate this because in very large complex networks, if you want to actually trace out the PTP or the multicast flow across the network, this actually provides you the ability to do this. We can also do asymmetry analysis on the network as well. So if there's any sort of asymmetrical flows, any sort of problems, you'll be alerted on that before it actually starts to disrupt your business. And this is actually a click in to one of these links. So you can see all the stats here. We're reporting on in real time. If you're using SFPs, we can see all the fiber details. If you're using PoE, you can see that information here. You can see all the transmit receive bit rates. But what's really interesting is you can see all the flows that are going across any physical connection. And from that flow view, I can actually send any of those flows using IP jack field to the media analyzer or to the capture appliance. So in real time, I can just simply click, I want to be able to send that race audio for analysis. 2 clicks, it's sent, and I can observe it in the other side of the platform. You'll also notice here we have a security icon. So we actually have a security suite built into the product as well, because for many media broadcast fabrics, they're these isolated quote unquote air gap networks. hard to deploy typical IT tools in those environments. You don't want those typical IT tools to, wreck the device or the network, disrupt communications. So we have the ability to actually actively scan all of the devices that are within those fabrics, assign a trust score to them, but not just assign a trust score, we actually have that trust score over time. So if a technician needs to go in, say replace an encoder, and they forget to maybe close the default ports, they leave Telnet open as an example, we'll actually alert on that as well. So kind of a nice feature that's also built in. And then this is just a view of the BMG. So this is that broadcast media guard. So I can see all the various different alerts, fully configurable. If you want to get these alerts sent to Slack or to email, et cetera, we have those capabilities built in. And what we actually announced at the show is a feature called flow cycling. So this actually provides the ability for you to either trigger this through API or through the software. So you've got 1,000 flows, you can actually go through and actually analyze all those flows automatically, ad hoc or at a scheduled time every day. How am I doing for time? Almost 1 more minute. 1 more minute? Perfect. So just, I'll skip over here. I don't know if anyone in this audience has a problem with orphan flows on their network, but we also released at NAB the ability to actually clean up orphan routes using our software. In the past, cleaning up orphan routes was often difficult. You might have to call the switch manufacturer, get a support ticket open, go in, clean all these up. We can actually do all of that in our software as well. So another thing we announced at NAB. But if there are any questions or you need more information, definitely let me know. Again, we're based just outside Toronto here in Hamilton, so definitely interested to help.
And any questions? Luke? The guy who asks
Just
the
a
tough
quick one.
questions.
I think you kind of answered it, but
Yeah.
so if I have deterministic network traffic, I'd be able to kind of have a heads-up display, and I could actually track all the switches the flows are going through, for example.
Absolutely in real time as well.
And I can do that with, that was obviously more of a 2110 question, but I could do that with other multicast flows.
You can.
And even UDP or HTTP out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we support all the protocols, as well as sending those to the cryo for analysis. If you want to see the real-time flow analysis, you can do that as well.
Okay, thank you.
And Matthew, you mentioned IPMX. Are you seeing a growing adoption of
Yeah, it's so funny. I'd say maybe about 3-4 weeks ago, the amount of conversations around IPMX just absolutely skyrocketed. I do a lot of work with kind of the larger financial services customers in New York City, and it's amazing to see how many are actually actively deploying IPMX now, seeing a huge amount of growth there for sure. And actually, I think Ames actually won Best of Show at NAB.
Is that right?
For IPMX.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Interesting. And forgive me for asking this question, but is there a place for AI potentially in your solution?
There is for sure. I'd say the number one request that we get from customers is, it's great you're surfacing all these signals and all this information, but I want the big red easy button. I want to be able to hit that button and for you to actually go into the network and fix all of the issues. So there's definitely a place for ML and AI. Definitely.
Cool.
Yeah,
cool.
you're welcome.
Great stuff. These presentations are fantastic. All right. Next up, Christian Schneering from Lavo.
Good evening. Great to be back on Canadian soil. I'm Christian from Lavo. A small introduction and recap from Lavo. I'll let my colleagues who were at NAB do that for me.
This year's NAB was again a blast. We have presented to our customers quite a lot of different solutions, both physical new devices, our Edge One. We have introduced quite a lot of new processing features. What was really key is that customers understood that they can use our solutions from very small to very large. Whether you want to use it in broadcast, post-production, remote commentary, remote production, all of those solutions have been discussed during this NAB show, and the feedback was extremely positive.
As the NAB Show 2026 comes to an end, we'd like to thank all our customers and partners for the amazing conversations and the time they've spent with us. If you didn't get a chance to come and see us, particularly to talk about this thing, get in touch after the show and we'll have a chat.
All right, so let's talk about this thing. Wow, it's almost rehearsed. For the ones who do not know Lavo, Edge On we introduced and launched an NAB into our product portfolio. You've seen audio mixing consoles, video routers, broadcast controllers, and now we launched the Edge One, which is a audio and video stage box, so to say. I'll walk you through what it is, what it can do, and then if there's any follow-up questions to talk about it, and as we in the next couple of days, happy to have a chat about this. The Edge One comes in 4 different modules. You see 3 here. The 4th one is not as pictured. It's essentially a blank panel in the front. The other 3 options you see here is either a 8 times mic line in module in the front, 4 mic lines for outputs, or 3 mic lines for the commentary unit, 3 outputs and 2 line outs. That's the lowest one for a commentary unit. It is a 1RU device, half rack, and has 3 different, because there's different applications. We heard about stage boxes, we talked about post-production, remote production, parliaments, different applications. So it has 3 different mounting options, either the blue rubber bumpers, as you can see them here. If you want to mount them in a rack, has rack ears, or if you want to put them under a wall somewhere, a wall mount, just throw it on the table. These are the options available with the unit. So now here's the good part. Let's talk about the back a little more detail. What does it have? The back is always the same. The front we talked about. The back has multiple connectivity options. On the top left you see 2 for redundant power DC ins. Then just to the right of it, 2 RJ45 Ethernet ports. It is interesting to know that these ports are full, PoE++, which means a single cable can carry and power the box, as well as carry control as audio in audio and video, if you don't need to or want to use the DC inputs. Next to it, you have 8 SDI signals that can be configurable, either 8 ins or 8 outs or 4 and 4. Next to it is for clock referencing, word clock, and PTP, and all the good stuff on the clocking. On the bottom row from left to right, GPIO, in total 4 GPIs, 2 GPOs, a USB connector for charging your phone, and as well as 4 ins and outs on the audio side. A management RJ45 connector for control, if you have a full red and blue network and a separate management port. The SFPs next to it is 11025 gigabits, versus the RJ45 versus 1, 2.5, and 5. Difference here is if you want to do uncompressed 2110, you probably use the SFPs. If you use JPEG XS and compress the video, we may get away with the RJ45 connectors. And then at the bottom right, you see 4 HDMI ports. 2 of them are always only outs, so you can wire them directly to a monitor somewhere, or the HDMI 1 and 3 here are configurable to either be an additional output, so 4 outputs in total, or inputs if you want to bring a signal in, a video signal via HDMI. Bottom right, 2 redundant MADI connectors with SFP. That's the connectivity that always comes with the unit. Just to walk through what it looks like. On the video side, 8 3G signals or 2 12G signals, which would occupy input 4 or output 1 and 5. If you use the HDMI ports, it takes the SDI away. And then as you go through input outputs the same, and then in the last line here is if you split it, the 1 to 4 is the inputs and 5 to 8 are the outputs, SDIs. For the ones who know Lavo, we have a history in the audio mixing console world. We have the MC Square units. This is a DSP as Lavo quality, has DSP channels, not as wide, not as long as an audio mixing console, a little bit condensed to support 48 DSPs, a 32x16 audio matrix within the box. Gives you some input filters, and compressors, and all the good stuff. And this is what it's going to look like on the user end. It's an HTML browser that connects to the box itself. And you can pull up your control functions, the faders on the bottom left. In unison, what a console would look like. So anyone who is a Lavo user and has worked on a Lavo product will be very comfortable and very easy to transition to the HTML version of it. As I said, at the bottom is the faders, on the top some of the compression, filters, EQ control. An empty slide for more to talk. No, that is. The one option I mentioned, the Edge One commentary app, allows you for up to 3 people, 3 commentators to run on one box. That is what the interface would look like. You have your 3 commentators called here Henry, Lucas, and Christian, have their access to their microphone, can mute, unmute, can direct talk to the other commentators, can adjust their headphones, and have a visual feedback of what the program feed looks like for easy commentary. The box itself, I mentioned the 3 hardware versions on the front. The back is the same, and there's an audio package, a video package, or an audio-video package, depending on what your needs are in which environment you need to work in. So this is a licensable feature that is loaded onto the box. The hardware aside the front is always the same. We launched this at the NAB, has created a lot of buzz and a lot of conversations about this. A lot of people are very excited about this, so if you want to join that conversation, feel free to reach out after today. Questions? Fantastic. Going once, going twice, there.
Yeah, it's about time. Kind of an old school, new school thing here. If I'm thinking about integrations that I'm familiar with in live event environments, I mean, there are still people, for instance, that seek phantom power on their microphones. I assume you're just counting on people to use their preferred preamps.
There's phantom power in here too.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And then secondly, I guess the new question is, again, I guess people would use their own preferred wireless receivers with this if they're going wireless.
Then the wireless receiver somehow has to be connected into the unit.
Okay.
There's no wireless receiver into the box.
Yeah, I was just wondering whether you were envisioning that as something to be added as well.
We had that question. So Bluetooth connectivity or of some sorts is not planned. Yeah. Anything of wireless is not planned at the moment. Yeah.
All right. It was just trying to fill the time.
Yeah.
Any other questions, Joe? Right. Thank you, Christian.
No worries.
That's awesome. Awesome. Next up, Grass Valley, Greg Dakers. All right, and I'll get your presentation up, Greg.
There's quite a bit of AI in there. So,
Yeah, great. All right, I'll also, because I know Greg, I'm going to say a couple of kind things about Greg. Greg is new to sales, fair to say, but I think you all would agree what you like in a salesperson is someone who's conscientious and technically knowledgeable. And I work with Greg at Miranda and Grass Valley, and Greg managed the trade show group. So he knew how to work everything and fix everything, and he cared deeply. So welcome to the world of sales.
Thank you for that intro.
Yeah, you bet. Take it away.
Well, thank you, Roy. I'm not quite as seasoned a presenter as everyone else this evening, so I will do my best, but I appreciate your patience. So again, I work for Grass Valley. This is sort of what our booth looked like. We make a lot of traditional broadcast hardware, such as cameras, switchers, infrastructure products, and we also have a software-defined, I guess, platform called GVAMP with over 300 different applications and play-out asset management services to go with that. I guess spacebar would do it, right? There we go. So sorry, I did say there was some AI in here. I thought I'd just do a sort of a big picture of NAB in general. So I asked my research team, AI, of course, right, to pull out what were the most 10 talked about topics at NAB. Of course, he came up with AI as number one, slight bias there. Cloud broadcasting, virtual production, next-gen TV, IP-based workflows, immersive audios, streaming innovation, sustainability in media, 5G broadcasting, and creator economy tools. Not sure. I know 1, 2, 3 definitely, and I'll get into those probably than the rest from a GV perspective, but certainly a lot of AI. All right, so AI on the Grass Valley booth. So I think this year we see that AI is generally accepted. It's no longer a flashy demo, but it has its place. And there were a ton of very small but really useful applications of AI on our booth with partners as well. So through GVAMP, we partner with over 30 different companies who make little applets or sort of bridge gaps in our I guess AMP universe. So the first one that I thought was really interesting was an integration with AI media. So real-time speech-to-text captioning and multilingual translation workflows. It's a great example because it's almost 3 times faster than human caps and language translation, and quite a bit more accurate. So from 91 to 99% accuracy, which is quite something. In our Framelight X asset management, we have AI-driven logging and metadata tagging. So think of as you register your content in Framelight X and create a proxy, it is also analyzing that and integrating tags so that, I don't know, video of me doing jumping jacks as we showed on the booth, type in jumping jacks, well, of the thousands of videos in there, this one will pop up. So it's really useful. By people as well, so recognizes faces and public figures. And as I mentioned, federated search across distributed assets. AMP Assist, so the help tool within GVAMP has really come a long way. One of my former roles at Grass Valley was heading the training department and having to create some learning modules. I thought AMP Assist could really help me do the job, but it was at the beginning of its existence, made a lot of mistakes, misled me several times, but that's not the case anymore. It's really quite something. So not just about answering questions, but really suggesting workflows, very, very detailed instructions, very, very helpful. And then over the last couple of years, things like AI-enhanced audio and signal processing via EDIUS, our editor, or desktop editor, and our Framelight editor. So one of the things that I've discovered it does very, very well is remove noise from videos. What else? We also have a partnership with CalRec. They were on their booth, and they have what is called intelligent audio processing. And then up and coming intelligent routing decisions and automated processing. So think of incoming feeds and assigning assigning those feeds to processes that the sources need to go through automation. Cloud broadcasting. I'm going to pick up the pace because I see I'm already past the 5-minute mark. So hybrid deployments, on-prem, cloud burst, dominated discussions. And what I mean by that is, we often thought is, for GVAMP, are we going on-prem? Are we going in the cloud? In a lot of cases, the answer is both. It's a hybrid solution where you have a baseline amount of compute that is on-premise, and then you burst to the cloud. So that's really starting to stand out as the way to go for a lot of our customers. Okay, so we talked about MXL and DMF. I'll go there. Those are definitely buzzwords at NAB. There are multiple presentations from vendors and end users alike on how the EBU Dynamic Media Facility Initiative and MXL will change production. So MXL reduces latency in multiple points of the production and encourages inter-vendor collaboration without being penalized going from one to the other, through encodes and decodes along the way. So 13 vendors at NAB have signed on to MXL, and that includes Grass Valley. On our booth, we are MXL ready, and AMP itself having supported the core technologies behind MXL for quite some time. We introduced an MXL gateway, the ACE 3901. Sorry, you're not seeing this, are you? Oh, I'm going to go back. Sorry, use that. Perfect. The ACE 3901, so it's a densité modular card. The card itself, 32 by 32 inputs, or 384 channels per 4RU densité modular frame. We have more control surfaces or choices, so AMP being compatible with our K-frame panels, Maverick panels, and many third-party. Many new partner integrations, so resource orchestration, news and production automation, graphics, many more. So earlier I mentioned DMF. This slide I've probably seen 3 or 4 times during and since NAB. It was produced by the EBU, and it sort of describes this new way of working. The idea of having, generic studio spaces with compute-based or microservice-based production comes a lot of flexibility. And so actually just this evening I spoke to someone about this, the move towards, very flexible workspaces, media functions from multiple vendors, collaborating, and of course the choice between using on-prem compute and cloud. All right, here we go. And just, so the idea, one of the main benefits obviously is the reduction of equipment. Our best guess at this point is 60% equipment reduction going to a microservice-based production. Here's an example. Okay, I'm running out of time. DMC Production, Zigo Sport have adopted AMP and full HDR, UHD end-to-end production, 9 production live control rooms, full asset management, 11 playout channels, all hosted within 8 racks. They use Grass Valley technology, but also working with several other vendors. And just, sorry, I'm going over. We introduced the Altair 160 router, new features in AMP orchestration. I guess I'll stop here actually, because the slide's no longer advancing anyway. All right, thank you so much. Any questions? Great stuff, right?
Any questions?
Oh, I'm not sure I can allow a question from this gentleman. It's a tough customer, right?
Yes, tough questions.
But,
So the question is about media exchange layer.
okay. I knew you'd ask. Go for it.
So going between servers, there's quite a technical load on the network, right?
No.
No?
No, so actually, it uses basically Rocky technology. So it basically bypasses the network completely. So direct memory to memory transfer of video frames, essentially.
Okay, but my understanding was ML was storing it in the file system.
I'm sorry?
My understand. Oh, right. So you're doing memory from a virtual drive that's running in memory from one server.
Well, memory from, say, our ACE 3901 grid is just up here. I'm just taking an extra minute since you brought it up to talk about the grid card.
Go ahead.
Right, so it's a gateway card. So much like you had SDI to 2110 gateway cards, we now offer SDI to grid. And basically, we bypass the traditional data network, and so our AMP server, processing server, or compute will read directly off of the ACE card, and there's a separate backbone of 100 gig interfaces between our various servers, and they communicate directly rather than use the management or any other network.
And would you say that's the next iteration after 2110, the media exchange layer?
It's interesting that you mentioned that. Some customers are considering leapfrogging 2110 entirely. So if they haven't already adopted 2110, there may not be a need to if they're heading in the direction of software-defined production. Certainly, in this case, if your SDI devices could be brought into AMP or other participating vendors who also support MXL through the ACE 3901 grid. Oh, my pleasure.
All right, excellent. Okay,
Thank you.
great stuff. Great stuff. And Christian, there was a question that I missed regarding your Edge one. It says, I'm from Dwayne. It says, I may have missed it. What size of network does the Edge one need to run best? 1 gig, 10 gig, etc. ... And can it do simple point-to-point without a switch?
Yeah, if you do manually, it's point-to-point. If you use 2110, then it's network in between. No P2P point-to-point. If it's a JPEG XS, it's also a networked environment. So no point-to-point connection.
Okay. Okay.
What was the beginning of the question?
The network connections, 1 gig, 10 gig.
It's that's what the connectivity allows. The maximum bandwidth. If you have lower bandwidth, if you have a 1 gig connection, you can use the RJ45 with a 1 gig port.
Okay.
Plenty of bandwidth if you just use audio.
Yeah.
If you want to run a 2110 uncompressed 12G signal, you need to beef up your connection a little bit.
Okay. So depending on the capacity you need. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Right. And next up, Stosh Derbats from, I want to get this right, Fujifilm, not saying something else. Yeah. Okay. Fujifilm. All right. Let's get you up here.
Thank you, Roy. Thank you, everyone. It's great to be back on the stage here at TMU. Thanks to the board of the Toronto chapter. It's great to participate in tonight's meeting and share some of the excitement that we had around NAB this year. NAB for Fujifilm was fantastic this year. For those of you that have been in the last couple of years, it was great to see that all the construction at LVCC was done. We could get back to normal. Us and the other camera vendors and accessories were all back in the central hall in our comfortable space where we knew where things were, and it was wonderful. One of the best parts for NAB for me this year was just the way we are engaging with that show. They're getting so much more engaged in different verticals. They've always been engaged in sports and broadcast, of course, but in the enterprise video and into the creator economy and trying to find the new people that are creating productions that all of us want to engage with. So it's been fantastic to support them, support the show. We were sponsors of City Central, where the Society of Camera Operators were in there doing training with people every day, whether it was on cranes or steady cams or whatever. So there's a lot of activity, a lot of people around. Were the overall numbers where they were 20 years ago? Well, no, but certainly the quality of people that we engaged with were fantastic. One of the highlights for me personally was to be able to be, and just to touch on Roy's point actually first, a lot of you know me as the Fujinon lens guy. Fujinon was always a wholly owned subsidiary of Fujifilm. So it's been probably a decade now since we've been assimilated by the mothership. Fujifilm was always our wholly owned parent. But now we as Fujinon are the optical device division of Fujifilm. So we support everything from, we have line binoculars, the Fujinon branded photo lenses into the broadcast stuff. We have a surveillance group and all that kind of stuff. So what was great for me, to go back to that this year, was to be able to share my time. Did I press the wrong button? Let's just go this way. At NAB with our latest Canadian teammate, Mr. Brandon Cooper, who's here with us today. So Brandon is the latest Canadian sales manager for Fujifilm Optical Device and the new Fujifilm Eterna filmmaking system. So we'll get into that in a second. A quick look at our booth. We put a lot of effort into our booth this year. A lot of time went into it. The theme was the streets of New York. So we like to think you were transported, into the shops of New York, the brownstone look, the subway style, without some of the sounds and smells of Manhattan, but a lot of the vibe. So the whole booth was lit as the scene. So once you walked onto the booth, you were one of the models in the scene, and all the various cameras and lenses were positioned in such a way that they had a great shot and the ability to really evaluate them and spend some time on the product. So I mentioned this just a second ago, a camera. Well, look at that. We launched late in 2025 the GFX Eterna 55. And what is this? This is a full-on digital filmmaking camera. And why Eterna? For those of you more from the post side of the business, if you recall back to the days when Fujifilm made negative stocks, the Eterna stock was the first stock that we made for that, specialized for the digital intermediate process. So when you were scanning that film to do your post-production in the digital space and then printing it back out to film, the Eterna stock was developed to be used in that scenario. So why not call our first digital filmmaking camera an Eterna camera? Which made a lot of sense. So we were real proud this year. We did get the best in show for the camera with the Eterna camera. And that gentleman you can see there holding all the trophies is John Blackwood. He's our new director of technical marketing. So he's got in there the Cine D award. That was for the new digital filmmaking lens. The one for the camera, one we'll talk about later, but then one for our launch film. Okay, so if you have a chance to see that online on our YouTube channel, the film Okay is a great film shot with Eterna. So why Eterna? Why are we making a filmmaking camera? The reality is we got to a point in the evolution of our photo cameras where we felt that we could provide to the marketplace something that was different, that wasn't there already. So if you happen to be familiar with our medium format stills cameras, the GFX 102, its sensor is huge, and as you can see in the image there, the internal slice there is 4x 35 millimeter film. So this sensor is three times bigger. So it's a 55 millimeter diagonal. It's a 4x3 sensor, which enables some real unlocking of creative opportunity with anamorphic, vertical video, lots of different things, and it employs Fujifilm color. So some real cool stuff you can do around Fujifilm color in there with the film simulations, 3D LUTs, and some other things. So we're not going to dive too far into that, but there certainly is one in town. There's one prepping at Keslow camera today to shoot a commercial later this week, and they are out there in the field, and we're super excited about what we can see from them. I think there's a note on here somewhere, but it is IMAX certified as well. So when we get into sensors that big and the aesthetic you can create, now what we're doing is enabling that kind of IMAX aesthetic to be enabled to most productions out there. So over the last couple of years, we spent a lot of time talking about cinema live, right? We've had our cinema world for a long time. Kind of as we came out of COVID, everybody wanted to have the cinema look. All the video people wanted to get into the cinema look. So when you look at these two lenses on the screen, looks like a broadcast ENG lens and a broadcast box lens. These are both cinema lenses. These are PL mount native lenses designed with the cinema look in mind. And what does that mean? Why do we care? When we start talking about live, it's about isolating your subjects, right? It can be your pregame, your play-by-play during the game, different sports. And what we're finding, and we've been doing tests, hundreds of tests on site, it's about finding the positions in the show where you can make use of it, right? If you're down at low first or low third in baseball, low slash in basketball, you know, places where you want to blur out that background, and you can see a foreground and a background. You know, we've done some tests in hockey, and it can be a challenge because there is no low slash. You're up high, and the foreground and the background is all white ice. So it's difficult to really take advantage of it. We're going to get a lot more into that at the boot camp. We're going to be doing a paper at the boot camp, and we're going to dive a little deeper into the cinema look and why it matters, but just a quick teaser there. At the show this year, we dove back into broadcast. So our traditional 2/3 inch B4 lenses, we had 6 new lenses to talk about at the show this year. The first, which started shipping while we were at the show, which is fantastic, it's replacing a lens, and it's a bit of a gap lens, right? So it's a pretty wide lens now. You're seeing it's a 22 by 4.8, so a 4.8 to 106 millimeter. And the beauty of that is it's giving you a nice wide angle of view to start, but you still got a lot of zoom ratio. So we've been, again, doing a lot of field testing with this in sports. ESPN drove us hard to come up with that focal length to be under the basket in basketball, right? So, you know, we were going to be a 22 by 5, but their feedback was these basketball players just keep getting taller. They want their shoes and their face in the shot. The shoes are their sponsor, and their face is their brand. So 4.8, they felt these 7-footers, that'll do it, but then follow them down to midcourt. This lens was on the Masters at CBS Sports. They loved it on the dolly jibs because they could wheel in, get the wide shot, but now they can pick things out of the crowd, get stuff down the hole a lot further with the 22 times zoom. So that's an exciting one. And when we talk about wide, so like I said, it's replacing the 5.5. So just to give some perspective relative to the difference between 5.5 millimeter as a wide angle and 4.8 millimeter as a wide angle. A lot of us have been talking a lot about network stuff and AI and all that. We're not thinking a lot in terms of focal lengths anymore. So just to give you guys a visual representation of what that means. So from that same distance, 30 feet back, a 5.5 is going to give you that look on the right versus the 4.8. So a lot more flexibility relative to what you can capture. Even thinking about news, right? If you're into an office space and you want to get a 3-shot, maybe with the 5.5 or a traditional 7.6, you're just not going to get it. You're not going to be able to get wide enough. But as we go wider, we worry about distortion, right? Distortion becomes a big challenge for the optical designers. So our feedback to them, well, okay, we can go wider, but the distortion can't be any worse than that 18 by 5.5 we had. Because that was a well-accepted lens out there in the marketplace. So their response was this shot from our lab in Japan. So at the same 5.5 wide end, you should be able to see fairly clearly there that the distortion characteristics are better. And then when we get all the way to 4.8, it matches up to where it was. So good news on distortion perspective and on the flexibility and versatility which you get out of that lens. Next up was two more. These two lenses, as you can see, were under glass, so they weren't touchable. At the show, these will be live and working by NAB 2027. So we're gonna have a new wide angle, 16 by 4. So that'll be the widest wide angle broadcast lens on the market, and a 30 by 7.3. So that'll be our wide, our mid, and our long. So the good news is we've revamped the whole E&G line. And of course, you can't just have all new portable lenses, you need a new box lens. So the challenge here was we had a 70 by, and then we went to 107 and a 125, left a big hole in the middle there. So the beauty of this 94 is it's gonna fill that gap. It's gonna come later this year. One of the shout outs to it is you'll notice the F number is an F2.2, as opposed to a 1.7 where all the other box lenses are. That's gonna enable us to bring this to market a little more affordably and get this into the price range that a lot of people need, where you don't necessarily need 100+ times zoom lens in every application with a 1.7 times f-stop. If you're doing normal production out there in the field, you're likely running out of 5, 6, 8 anyways. So having the 1.7 is not a huge advantage. So looking forward to that coming soon. Next up was the 125 with lens effect. So we'll get into this a little bit further too at the boot camp, but what is lens effect? Well, when we're talking about cinema look, not everyone can make use of those cinema lenses because they just don't have the range. If you're out at center field at the Sky Dome and you want to get the headshot of the batter, you just can't use that. But maybe the director still wants to have that cinematic look to the image. So how can we do that? Well, the Duvos will do it, but again, it doesn't necessarily have that full range. So if we look at this is just a chart showing you the depth of field. And what we're comparing in the green lines is that 125 times at f6 versus the Duvo box, that cinema box lens, wide open. So you can see you get a much shallower depth of field. Well, what if you could take that 125 times and leave it wide open at f1.7? What would happen to your depth of field as you zoomed out to the tele end? Well, you would match up pretty closely. That's great, but now you're gonna be right washed out because your iris is wide open. So what makes this work? Some of the camera vendors now have integrated variable NDs in their camera. So what we can do is set the iris wide open and use the variable ND to control our light. And what does that do? That's now gonna compress the depth of field, give us that shallower depth of field, isolate subjects. Great. And keep that full range. However, a big part of the cinema look is that out of focus bokeh. We all hear about the bokeh. What is the bokeh? Well, to give you an example, when you're in focus, you're in focus. We talk about a broadcast bokeh versus a real cinematic bokeh. So when we talk about that, what you should see in the middle one is harder edges on your out of focus areas. And that's a telltale sign that it's a broadcast lens and camera system as opposed to a cinematic system. So what we're doing is we're deploying in, sorry, let me back up. So we're deploying the variable ND in the camera to control light, and then in the turret in that box lens, we've put a lens effect filter in there that will help with the bokeh. So it will essentially, to oversimplify, diffuse those hard edges in your out of focus area. So if we look at that image, hopefully it's coming through fairly clearly. And then as you stop it down, right, past F4, then you're just getting the same thing. So again, it's all about keeping it as open as possible to get that shallow depth of field and then blow out those out of focus areas. And just a quick review of what we're doing. Again, the hard edges versus just softening those out. And to show you again, so again, the Duvo, right, the cinema box lens, that's gonna give you the best, the washed out focus, the real clean look. But then again, with this, what we can do is bring it into those positions on the field or in the environment, in the stadium, where you can't get away with a cinematic system. Last but not least, our second Best of Show winner in the camera accessory, so there's John with that, is a new type of B4 lens. This is what we call an LA 30 by 7.8. What's cool about this is it is a 4-pound 30 times zoom. So you'll see there is no 2 times extender there. What's cool about it is it's a rear focusing lens. So there's a focus group that's at the back of the lens that's servo driven. So no power, no focus. But with power, it works just like any other B4 lens, but it doesn't have that heavy, expensive front glass. So what this is doing is enabling you to get an affordable 4K performing lens into those B4 environments. We got pushed really hard by the robotics manufacturers to provide a tool that would help bring that overall system cost down and help prevent the migration to all the PTZ systems, right? So to have the quality and the range for the system to be enabled in robotic applications. So they were a big driver of this. This does have the same 20-pin serial port as all our other broadcast lenses. So your Ross robot, your telemetrics, your shutter cube plugs right into this bad boy and away you go. So exciting new development as well on the B4 front. And that's all I got. Did I keep it under 10?
No, you didn't.
Ah, son of a gun. No questions then.
No, we can absolutely still have questions. Any questions?
That was easy. Must have covered everything or nobody knows lenses. All right, thanks everybody.
Let me ask one.
Wait, there is one.
Just that your Eterna sensor, you mentioned the physical size of it.
Yeah.
I might have missed it, but the resolution, not the right term, but the number
So
of
it's a 102
landing sites.
megapixel sensor, core sensor, but that depends on which formats you pick. So if you want to be open gate, we max out at 4K, and then there's other up to 8K.
Okay.
The highest resolution for motion is 8K.
8K.
And it's a pixel for pixel smaller window than the full sensor.
Okay.
So you got to get in there and try the different formats.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Stott. All right, aren't these presentations fantastic? And we've got such a great, like I said before, great mix of different companies in our industry. All right. Now, batting cleanup, final presentation. Mo Goyal of Evertz. Please welcome Mo. And I will get you set up. Right.
Excellent.
And if
Thank
you want to move around, use this. And that's,
Yep, I'll stand here and, all right. Good evening, everyone. Everyone here and everyone online. My name is Mo. I'm from a small company called Evertz. We're just down the road here in Burlington, Ontario. About 2,000 employees. We've been in the broadcast space for about 60 years. Started off in the film space, doing key code readers, and then now into helping our partners deliver content from lens to screen. That's kind of the big intro for Evertz. I could honestly spend the next hour telling you everything we've done and all the new stuff we have at NAB, but we only have 10 minutes, so I'm going to get into my auctioneer voice and try to run through this as quickly as possible, while still providing some interesting information. Okay, so for us, really what's happening in the industry is about how do I create content, how do I connect the content, and how do I monetize that content? And growing demands are, I want to be as close to live as possible. And traditionally, this is where we have this flow where we take our cameras, we take our audio, we put into a production mixer, and we produce that one broadcast feed, which then gets distributed out to our partners, to the end users. And that's one view of that game or that live event. What's happening now, though, is the industry is really looking at how do I provide multiple versions of this live feed to address personal demand that's happening by the consumers, whether that's people like myself that want to watch the game in a very traditional way, to others that want to see from maybe a particular player's perspective, or I want to see it on my phone in 9:16, or I want to do it in a different language. So how do I deliver that all in real time? How do I deliver that live moment and still deliver that immediacy? That's really why we watch live sports, is for that immediacy. And that means we have to rethink. We have to really rethink everything from the beginning, because if we make that decision of we need to deliver these different streams or these different versions to multiple platforms, that shifts our decision-making into the actual production of that content. I'm not going to just drive one feed, but I'm going to drive multiple feeds. How do I do that? Well, not only am I going to start to bring in the camera feeds, the audio feeds, I'm going to start to bring in data. Data helps us, right? I want to know player stats. I want to use computer vision. I want to use tracking elements. all that information now becomes essential to the production so that I can start to optimize and build efficiencies in my production workflow so I can build those really personalized information. So I can still build my traditional production workflow with the graphics and the data feed or the data layers and everything else, but I can also start to derive a 9:16 version, right? Build a camera feed that will now just simply follow a particular portion of the match and put it in 9:16. I can follow a particular player. I want to do that. Or I can start deriving highlights automatically based on that data. So instead of having operators just simply cutting the clips themselves, they're going to be presented with highlight packs that's been curated automatically so that now they aren't going to miss a moment. So instead of looking at, say, the successes of a baseball player, they can look at the misses, right? So there's a lot more stories that are available. So the operational staff becomes more focused on telling more of those stories and delivering that content more quickly. And that's where we start to see things like AI and AI tools that help us accelerate that, right? Helps us generate those content pretty quickly. And then from there, we hand it off to our partners and I deliver it across multiple platforms, whether that's my traditional broadcast partner, my regional sports networks, to my DTC, OTT, social media, all of that immediacy. So now I'm really presenting the audience a different perspective of that match in whatever flavor they want. Taking that feedback into the production also helps us curate those content a little bit quicker, right? Again, creating that personalization. So for us, it was really about telling that story in terms of connecting all the different aspects we had, our Bravo studio, our underlying technology like ENX and the technology that moves content around, plus these advanced tools to really help us build this multi-program production or the scalable story engine to really address some of that. So first, it starts off with how do I make that interface a lot more intuitive? I really need to have more teams start to create this content. So it starts about creating a more intuitive interface by simplifying a lot of those complex tools that we have in normal production and make them easy to access so I can have multiple teams create the content more consistently across multiple platforms. So this is the interface that we have with Bravo, and we're showing that I've got not only my multi-viewer, but I've also got my program preview switching, the graphic layers, I can add box and box, I can do all those things I have in my production, but through a more intuitive interface that opens my audience or my talent base to create that content. This is an example of the highlight factory where I'm using data to auto-assemble these clips. So again, the operator isn't assembling, going through different camera angles and pulling this, he's just using data points, and that content gets curated, so I'm selecting that, the playlist gets automatically created, and now they can adjust that. So the operator is shifting their mindset from manually assembling that to fine-tuning that content to get it out to the audience faster. We also launched our Bravo Blade, so this helps us accelerate that production process, gets us into the ultra-low latency space, so now I can bring this technology into venues, where now they can, as a hockey team or a basketball team, leverage this not only to produce the content in the stadium, but also broaden the content to a growing audience outside the stadium. One of the biggest technologies was also from the audio side. So we've been investing a fair amount into the audio space with our Studer brand, and we launched the Spatial IQ. So working with our partners at Shure, we enhanced the audio for those rectilinear sports like hockey or basketball. So traditionally in a hockey match, you've got mics that are surrounding the ice rink on the glass. What we did here with Shure, we put some overhanging multinodal mics in the scoreboard, so I can now pick up audio right from the ice surface or the playing field. So what this allows us to do is now create that unique audio experience of elements of the actual playing field, the ice, the cuts of the ice that I wouldn't hear unless I was at the stadium. So I can bring that into production. But what Spatial IQ does is allows us to, in that top right corner, you'll see the normal boundary. So I have a mic for every position up there. What I'm going to do is use this player tracking, and I'm going to follow the puck. And I'm going to start opening and closing mics. Sure, I can do that as a one, but as I start to look at, not only do I have my, say, 16 mics at my boundary mics, but I also now have another 16 of my multinodal above the rink. I'm now building it such that I can audibly start to adjust those levels depending on what the play is. So I'm now creating those different mixes that I can actually add into my major mix. So now the A1 now has a lot more information that's being available to them to carry it into that space. And that's what Spatial IQ does. We launched our new core. Again, people are still building facilities in around SDI or 2110. We are at that point. We're now aging facilities over 10 to 12 years of the initial HD transition. So ENX is that media core that removes that choice, meaning the decision making. You can support 2110 here, 12 gig onto the core. You don't need gateways. It just treats it as a normal media core. You can do this in 512 by 512 in HNRU or 256 by 256 UHD in 11RU. So again, it removes the complexity of a 2110 network while still providing the simplicity of a 21 or of an SDI. So this is just an example of the 10 or the 11RU. Again, interfacing using our view technology to present information what's going on in the system, as well as our HNRU that's there. And you can network these together to build a completely non-blocking 1536 by 1536 12 gig SDI, sorry, UHD matrix in the size. Another interesting launch that we had, which was our VistaView Touch. So this is the evolution of our Vista series in terms of the mixing consoles we have within Studer. So in this case, we start to bridge that world of very tactile interfaces to touchscreen interfaces. So in one side, I can build this console modularly based on my needs. So I can scroll it from anywhere from 16 tactile sliders or faders to now a completely immersive software-based interface. So it can now really merge that best of two worlds. So if I have a very large production, I need those tactile faders, I can do that. But I can also move the mixing board to leverage it for software controls or software interfaces for things like podcast. So I am getting that versatility of what you have in terms of the actual audio production. Connecting content. Everything is around orchestration. Magnum OS is our bread and butter for the orchestration of a lot of our facilities, whether it was our traditional SDI to 2110. What we launched this year was the VistaView. Again, we saw that in the number of the presentations earlier. It's about gaining observation, more information about the network, being able to transfer or have ownership of the system, to be able to troubleshoot, identify where the problems are. So in this case, we leverage our view interface. And so at the top, you have the actual video feed. And here in these other little blocks, I can start to build in information I'm interested in. So once I select that service, I now have the metrics and information around the packets, the signal quality, information that I can present all in one sort of area here. Moving over to this side, I have our analytics engine, which has been part of Magnum for a while. I can also provide more metrics and more sort of measurable parameters here in terms of that stream coming in. So I can pick a particular source here, decode it, and then start to look at the actual elements in here that show packet spacing, in this case also marking off SCSI triggers and things like that that become more interesting for us in terms of that video signal coming in. In terms of bringing content into facilities, we have a series of different encoders and decoders. The big thing here was JPEG XS. JPEG XS is starting to grow as a contribution encoder. So we have a new blade there that supports multipaths of JPEG XS encode and decode. Sits in our Scorpion platform, whether it's the 6, the X18, or the 2U. On the receiving end, we have our new bulk Excalibur. Again, 128 JPEG XS paths of encode and decode in a 1RU, so one of the highest density in this case. So really ideal for those facilities that are receiving signals, either H.64 HEVC or JPEG XS. Our one platform, any cloud, this is where we start to look at how do I handle the versatility of signal formats that are out there. As we see JPEG XS, HEVC, H.64 in terms of codecs, we're also seeing a number of ways of transport, whether it's a simple MPEG-2 transfer stream, it could be SRT, it could be RIST, it could be ZXC, 2110. We take them in, we do a lot of processing here, we do some monitoring, we do some normalization, and then we encode it back into whatever format I need. So if I'm in a cloud environment, I can bring in all these virtual signals in, normalize it, and deliver to where I need to go, or deliver to multiple features or number of different applications inside that cloud in whatever format they need. So this is how we combine some of those things, our exchange, our reflector, and some of our encoders to handle this transition that's happening in the States, which is under the FCC Big Beautiful Bill. the movement from the C-band to now, how do I carry my content through the satellite? So this is leveraging the public internet in terms of content distribution. So you've got your main contribution happening over here at the sports network. I feed into the cloud. I deliver to my affiliates or my regions, but I also start to do market switching. So we leverage SCUDdy 224 to start doing market segment cuts for those different elements. So if I'm in one region and I got to cut to another program, I do that in the cloud versus doing that on-prem. So that really shifts the dynamics and the economics of how it's accomplished. So Exchange is that sort of orchestration layer that runs in the cloud. It's a service that we offer on Evertz.io. Evertz.io is a Evertz provided SaaS service. So we do a number of things. We do playout, we do a number of transform, and now we do live stream management, in which spin up an event, you handle that management of those events from those different locations to a destination, and then you tear it down. Got one more minute? All right. I didn't think I was going to be able to do this, but I actually got close. IPMX, we talked about IPMX. We highlighted our gateway services through our AV department. So we've got our Nucleus platform and MMA, all supporting IPMX, which means I can start to bridge in 2110 environments. So this is a great example where I can take my production world in the venue and start sharing that content within other facilities or other elements inside that stadium that would use my Pro AV space. So that's really sort of one of the great applications of IPMX, is I'm starting to bridge those two worlds to get content everywhere. Last but not least is our review. Again, leveraging access right from the production side to give fans experiences that were unique. So in this case here, I now have all the different camera angles. I can scrub back and forth, select it, choose my own replay, build my own replay. So it's about enhancing the fan experience by bringing this into maybe VIP suites or public areas where fans can get engaged and have control of that production. And that's it. Sold. Got you guys out of here in 10 minutes. And that's just a little snippet. If you want more information about any other products, myself and Mike are here to answer those.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Mo. Great stuff. And any questions?
Still awake?
Gotta be questions. Was that a hand raised? No? Okay. That one with the microphone matrix where you're following the puck?
Yep.
Is there technology in the puck?
No. So that's again leveraging. So in that case, we did a POC with the National Predators. So we leveraged the NHL Edge data that they have. So again, they're using technology to track players, track the puck, and everything else. Gotcha. So not only can you do that for the puck, but also I can pick a particular player and say, I'm going to follow this player, just pick up the audio for that particular player. Now I can add another experience that isn't happening today.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Really
so
cool.
You can break that off?
Yep.
You can break that off separate, so it's not part of the main. It's
Nope,
you can present in a separate.
Exactly.
part of your broadcast.
Exactly.
That's really cool.
All right. Cool. Thank you.
Great stuff. Thank you, Mo. Me. And now, it's been happening, it's my fault tonight, but often there are questions that I then need to follow up and go back to the previous presenter. So a couple of questions for Stosh, actually. Do the broadcast optics, example UA22, cover the Eterna sensor?
No. The 2/3 inch optics have an 11 millimeter diagonal, if we think about the circle of light that comes out. And Eterna is really starting at Super 35, which would be 28.5. So yeah, 2/3 inch is much, much smaller.
Yeah.
Now there are adapters, third-party adapters on the market. Kip-On and others make adapters that enable you, Croziel, to put broadcast optics on PL mount cameras and power them and do all that great stuff, but they do expand the image. So it's not native.
Okay, and then a second question. Is the Eterna a global shutter? What's the rolling shutter performance for broadcast?
It is not a global shutter, and the rolling shutter specs depend on which format you're in. So certainly we've done a ton of tests out there in volumes and live images. I encourage you to get online and check out a lot of the footage. A lot of handheld work, a lot of cameras out there are rolling shutter cameras, and we have not experienced any issues to date.
Okay, and the last one. What's the sensor coverage for the LA30 B4 lens?
Same 2/3 inch. 2/3 inch sensor coverage, 11 millimeter.
All right, thank you. Okay. How about a big hand for all the presenters? That was fantastic. And what do we think of this format? Can we do it again next year? Wait, yeah. I thought it was great, but eager to hear any feedback anyone has on how it could be better. But I thought the presenters were just awesome. I have some very good news to share. Very good news. So, go ahead. It's okay to say this? Okay. Simon Adler of STVI has offered to buy the first round of the pub. Yes. Yeah. At this moment, every person watching virtually is getting in their car, driving to the pub. Yeah. And Luke has a question. He's wondering if he gives a different name sequentially, can he get multiple drinks? Sorry, Luke. I know he'll get me back. All right. And again, just thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming. Hope you enjoyed this. And again, boot camp, May 21st. Please come. The presenters there. It's going to be a full day of just engagement, really fascinating technology and discussions. Yeah, Gene?
I want to remind people where the bar is.
Yes.
Oh, we would have figured it out for that first round.
275.
It's 275. I know I had it on the slide earlier. Trois Brasseurs, 275 Yonge Street, correct? Yeah. Okay.
8-minute walk from there.
8-minute walk. Okay. Hope to see you all there. And Tony, am I forgetting anything? Nope, you got it. We're good. Thank you, everyone. See you at the pub.